to the Dr. Riley Show. I'm your host, Dr. Anissa Riley. Good evening, good evening, good evening, and welcome to another episode of the Ask Dr. Riley Show. I'm your host, Dr. Anissa Riley, and it is an honor and a privilege that you have joined us here this evening. So get your popcorn, get your juicy juice, do people still drink juicy juice? Well, I'm not advertising it, but it is 100% juice. So make sure you get some and drink it up and get whatever else you need in order to enjoy an evening with me as we continue with our theme of, you got it, identity. Remember, identity is something that we all are looking for, striving for, trying to even find ourselves. But tonight, our guest, my guest, our guest, is going to share her understanding, her journey, her voyage as we unpack identity. So, welcome. I'm about to call you doctor.
I am the doctor of life.
Yes. Treasure. Welcome, Treasure, everyone. Thank you, Miss Treasure. Thank you for being here. And
thank you for having me.
yes, this is amazing. Like, did I just say something prophetic? Like, Dr. Treasure, doctor.
I mean, it might be, but I ain't going back to school, so.
Well, I mean, how many people got a doctorate and they ain't go back to school?
I'm just saying.
That's a word.
You said it before I said it.
Yeah, honorary.
Fake
doctorates. No, we ain't gonna talk about those people.
Not fake though.
Yeah, there's some people I know got some fake ones. They just won't put the letters there. But that's not what we're here today to talk about. We're here to talk about the theme of identity. So, like I like to ask all my guests. Yes, y'all know y'all fake out there.
Oh my God.
I like to ask all my guests, what does identity mean to you?
Identity to me is who you are as a person. It's who you are as a person. To me, identity is the demonstration of your character before even opening your mouth. Literally walking on the scene, and whatever that may be that you are projecting, exuding, to me, that is identity. Whether you're perceived outside of who you really are, it's how you are identified.
You said something very interesting. You said perceived. And so would I be correct in saying that identity is a perception?
In some cases, yeah.
So can you tell me a little bit more about?
So, in some cases, yes. For myself, example, when I first encountered you, met you, I perceived, I was just like, oh, okay, she's bubbly, she's always happy. Nothing really rattles her. That was my perception. But I know there are things that might rattle you. But my first impression, my first perception of you was, oh, she's always happy. Nothing could ever, cause her to not be happy.
Well, that is true. No, let me No, but I hear that. And I think that is something worth exploring, because when we talk about this word perception, I think some people may get caught up in the perception or the image that other people see,
right,
or identify with when it comes to them. And they have this struggle of trying to either live up to the image, live up to the perception, and then something happens. Does that resonate with you? Does that make sense? Would you agree? Would you disagree? What are your thoughts about that?
As it pertains to me personally?
Yeah.
Or?
Yeah.
Living up to a perception that
Or an image.
That for me, that got kicked out a long time ago. Like,
So it was there at one point.
at
then.
one point, yes.
All right, so
At
talk
one
about that
point.
one point, like, yeah.
So for me, when I was growing up, I was quote unquote shy. I was timid. I was always, long and lanky. Other people around me were not long or lanky. So I got picked on a lot. I was a girl's girl, like girly, like still to this day, like I'll choose a dress or a skirt over a pair of pants any day. So when I was growing up, I was perceived as a princess, right? I mean, it didn't help that my name is TREZURE. And I was perceived as, I think I'm better than everyone and things of that nature, when in fact I was like scared. Like I didn't want to talk to anyone or anything like that. I just wanted to keep to myself. But I remember majority of my life, my academic life, I went to private school. And I was just like, I don't want to go to private school anymore. I want to go to public school. I don't know why, but I just wanted to go to public school. So I think it was sixth grade. Yeah, like sixth grade. Fifth grade going into sixth grade, I literally just kept asking my parents, can I go to public school? Can I go to, and they were like, fine. And I went to public school, and it was different. It was very different.
Bad boys, bad.
It was, and when I went to private school, it was in the Bronx. But you're in the Bronx, but you're in a building with other people that also have, I guess, like-mindedness with their parents and things of that nature. Going to public school, you in the public, like everyone is there, right?
You in Mass Pop, you in Gen Pop.
Right. So going to public school, it was different because it was not cool for you to participate in class. It wasn't cool for you to, at least the public school I went to, it wasn't cool for you to be academically inclined, like you were getting clowned on, right? So for you to be well-mannered or for you to
Be articulate.
Right, was like, who you think you are, type of thing.
Are you an enthusiastic sports fan? Want to have fun and get in on the action?
Heck yes, that'd be awesome.
Have great attention to detail? Want to stay active?
Definitely.
Want to give back to the student athletes in your community?
Obviously, yes.
Then you'd make an excellent high school sports official. We need more officials in New York, because with no high school officials, there are no high school sports. Sign up today at highschoolofficials.com.
So the perception, and that was another thing. I came into the school not at the very beginning of the school year. Yeah. So here I am. I think I had my hair pressed. Yeah, my hair was pressed, and I had.
For those of you who don't know, we African Americans use a hot comb to straighten our hair. For those of us who don't want to use chemicals, go look it up.
So my hair was pressed, and I walk in, and I have on a full dress, right? I remember the dress. It was plaid, and it buttoned up the front. It had a collar, and it had I had a green little bow tie. Girl, I was cute. I was cute. White tights.
Your black hand leather shoes.
I sure did. Right? And I walked in, and everyone else is like in session. And then everyone else is in jeans and sneakers and T-shirts. And I was like, oh, this is different. And coming from a place where you're in private school and you're acknowledged or it's commended for you to behave well and actually have relationship with your teacher, right? Going to public school was like, what you doing? Like, ma'am, this ain't it.
Different culture.
Very much so. So once again, I was perceived as, I think I'm better than everyone because I was, to them, dressed up. And I mean, I came from wearing uniforms and jackets and sweaters all the time. And that's what it was. Like, even with my mom, when she would go to work, she would get dressed, like dress, makeup, whatever. And she would wear a uniform at work, but she would leave the house dressed. So that's, you know, what I knew. And yeah, it didn't go over too well. Didn't go over well.
So now you were perceived as a goody two-shoes. You were perceived as thinking you were better than your peers or your contemporaries. So how did that shape, or what impact did that have on you, your identity as you were growing up?
So it was definitely a shift because it was just like, oh, I am now miserable. Before I would go to school, everyone was in uniform, everyone was, you know, quote unquote friendly. Like, I don't remember even having like issues in elementary school. Only issues were, you know, the boys played with G.I. Joes and they were annoying, and we played with Barbies and we weren't.
No slight to G.I. Joe.
So other than that, walking into this place, and it just seemed like there were a lot of, like, the kids were angry. It seemed like a lot of the kids were angry. And I learned later on that they in fact were, understandably so. And it was just, like the atmosphere of it was just, I went home upset every day. Because I was just like, yeah, I wouldn't do this no more. Then
I want to go back to private school.
Yeah, I was like, I want to go back to private school. And they were like, no, it doesn't work like that. Like, if you do go back to private school, you have to finish out the school year, and then we'll see what happens with the next year. But as far as how it shaped me, I guess it kind of gave me a dose of reality, if you want to call it reality. It just gave me a different perspective on different people and how different people live. Like, in 6th grade, that's where I realized that not everybody lives in a big house with mom and dad and, you know, have a backyard and just quote unquote live well, right? I found out that there were people that, yeah, they just didn't quote unquote live well. And
lived below the poverty line.
Yes, but I didn't know that that's what that was.
Right.
Right. Also, at that time, I was my grandmother, because that's how I got to public school. My mother's mother, they were using her address. So after school, I would go to her house.
We're not advocating for people to use other people's addresses. This is just her story.
So I would go to her house because my parents worked, and they also had like their own businesses and stuff like that at the same time. And yeah, I would go to her house. My cousins were there. And that was like another thing, because I was used to, okay, school is over, dad comes to pick me up, I go home. I don't know if this is bad, but I didn't care for my grandmother too much. I didn't care for her. So that was another thing. I was just like, why am I here? Like, what are we doing? And at that time, there wasn't cell phones, there wasn't pagers or stuff like that. And
the archaic time.
So it was very, it just wasn't what's up. And my mom, very sensitive about her children. she didn't show it, but I learned later on that she got tired of me coming home being sad and miserable. And there was one day I went home and I was just crying, and she was like, "What is wrong with you? What is wrong with you?" And then I was just like, "I just don't like that school. The people are mean and da 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 da." And then she was like, "What do you mean? Like, how are you going to allow other people to affect who you are? You're coming home." Oh my gosh, this is so funny because I had this conversation with my daughter earlier today, my little one. But she said, "How are you going to come home and let other people affect who you are and how affect your atmosphere here at home, your house is, this is where you're supposed to be happy and da da da." She said, "I'm tired of this. Don't come home. Don't come home with this no more." And how it shaped me was because I very much valued my parents' opinions and what they thought of me, right? So I'm like, oh, I'm sitting up here making my mother upset because these people are making me upset, and I didn't like that either.
You talk to... In every family, small conversations can make a big impact. I grew up on tour with my parents. Kind of different, but we bonded over music just like other families do over sports, camping, or other interests. And we talked. Little everyday conversations from silly to serious that built a foundation over time. Honest conversations, like when my dad shared his experiences as an alcoholic.
Your honesty about that part of your life gave me a sense of integrity that I wanted to uphold in my own life. And I was so grateful that you and Mom had become these sober, stable people who were always there for me.
I wanted you to know from someone who's been in recovery more than 30 years now that hard work is what creates success, not alcohol or other drugs, whether it's music or anything else. I said it a lot, and I'm glad you took it to heart.
Talk, they hear you. For more information about talking with your kids about underage use of alcohol and other drugs, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov.
Let me pause you right there because you said something that I think that I know I don't want it to get lost on our viewers, and that was you talked about different things that occurred, right? You were in a different school.
Right.
Your after school routine was different. And those markers, those markers that were shaped by being different kind of changed who you were or how you knew the world to be.
Right.
And so what do you think when you hear the word different and those different things, how do you think that impacted who TREZURE was prior to going to the public?
It was different, but it was more so that it took me out of a routine that was conducive to feeding what I thought was my happiness or was my joy. Like I said, going from looking forward to my dad picking me up after school to going to a woman who like I didn't care for, that's immediate. Like I was extremely emotional as a child. Is it emotionally aware? Like I was very emotionally aware. I was able to indicate what and specify what exactly would shift my emotion. Like, so, and when I felt something that I didn't like, and I'm still like that to this day, if I don't like it, I don't want to be in it. Like, we got to change it.
So I think that's key because you just talked about being attuned to your emotions. And you said you were in 6th grade, so you were around 11 years old. And we have a lot of 11-year-olds today who aren't really attuned to their emotions, but listening to what you're saying, I think is very key to knowing who you are.
Right.
Because you talked about, I knew what I didn't like.
Yeah.
I knew what brought me joy. I knew that. Talk about that. What do you think was key for you being attuned with your emotions? Because a lot of 11-year-olds are like hormonal issues.
Right, so that's definitely my parents. They raised me with open dialogue, which is interesting because at the same time, I went through a period where I felt that they were very strict, right? But it's not that they were strict, it was just that everybody else wasn't as
You had boundaries.
interested,
and other people
right?
didn't.
Interested in, right?
You had
That's a nice way of saying
You had
it.
boundaries that other people didn't have.
Right,
They
right.
had different kinds of boundaries.
Right. But my parents definitely set it up where, like, as far as I can remember, come to me first, speak to me first. Whatever it is, come to me. Like, we don't have any secrets. I'm your mom, I'm your dad. Please don't forget that. But at the same time, come to me first. Your parents are your best friends, right? And that was ingrained in my head from younger. I later found out it was because of incidents that have happened to one of my parents, where they dealt with attempts of molestation, and they didn't want that for me. So in order for people not to encounter those things, you have to break silence, right? So as my parents, when I tell you every and anything, like, they made it a comfortable place for me to come and speak to them about every and anything. Like, I could not, like, there was even a point where my friends, in my older years, my friends would be like, "You gonna tell your parents that?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And they're like, "But they're gonna get upset." And I'm like, "Well, they're gonna know anyway, so I got to tell them now." Like,
And I think this is key. Let me tell you why I think this is key, because you talked about perception in the beginning, and perception is this external view that people have. And a lot of us, viewers included, our identity is shaped by these external voices or this external environment. And when we talk about being a child or a young adolescent, a lot of our identity is shaped by our peers and our voices. But you just offered a way to counter that is by having this voice of your parents be very strong and having this open dialogue with your parents that we know 11-year-olds are having with 11-year-olds. Because if you don't think your 11-year-old know about sex, they see it every day. They have conversations with their friends. They are watching it on social media. But having your parents be able to give you that space to converse about anything and everything really countered this difference that you were experiencing from the change of environment and change of routine. So what was that like, having conversations, bringing it to your parents? Because some parents are like, "Whoa!"
they're opera singers?
Yeah, they opera singers. But like, what advice, I would say it that way, would you give to parents who may be searching for a way to help shape their children's identity?
Okay.
Because they can see that their baby is struggling.
If you're talking, they will hear you every single time.
Oh, we're getting killed.
Yeah, well, Kyle's not here.
How come?
Kicked off the team. Didn't Tim tell you? Kyle and some other kids got caught drinking beer in the park a couple of nights ago.
Really?
Yeah, 0 tolerance. He's out for the season.
Come on, it's a first offense, right?
That we know of. But why should that matter? He knew not to drink. I've made it clear to Matt, that's what we expect from him. What have you said to Tim?
Nothing really. You know, a lot of kids try it at this age, so...
Yeah, well, a lot of kids don't try it too. I'm not saying I'm asking to be this perfect kid, but if I don't tell him what we expect and why he shouldn't drink, how's he gonna know?
You think kids that age really listen?
They never admit it, Bill, but they hear more than you think.
Talk. They hear you. For more information about talking with kids about underage drinking, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov.
So first things first, once again, you have to, as a parent, create that atmosphere of comfort and trust, right? That's something that I definitely attribute and thank my parents for, because I use those same strategies with my own children. I have two. And yeah, you have to create that atmosphere of trust. I know my parents didn't do it with me, what I'm about to state, but I do with my children. From when I tell you, as young as coming out the womb, have conversations with them, just like how I'm having a conversation with you, right? I'm not waiting till they're able to speak to me in order to establish that trust. When it comes to an age where they're around other people outside of myself, I'm speaking to them and letting them know that, in my case, mommy and daddy are here for you, whatever it is. This is what happens in our house. If someone says something that is against this, and I'll even give examples, again, come to me. Even if you think I'm going to get upset, preface it that way. Mommy, I want to tell you something, but I think you're going to get upset. And then I will know, I am kind of emotionally intelligent, but I will know to receive the information, hear the information, and not react to the information. If I do receive information that internally I'm combusting, I will say to them, all right, I hear what you're saying. Give me a minute to process it. We can speak a little later or further. Or if you want to give me all the details now, then fine. But again, give me the time to process it. And in the back of my mind, I'm constantly reminding myself, you can't react because you told this child, come to me about every and anything, and they followed your instruction or advice to come to you and say, Mommy, I think I have something to tell you. I think you're going to be upset. And to me, that's golden as far as being a good parent and giving your child space, because your home is their first everything, right? Like you're your child's first love. You're your child's, in some cases, first bully. You're your child's first everything. So yeah, I think I answered.
You did, because you said something key also that I want the audience to kind of hone in on, is around this emotional intelligence that is embedded in who you are and your identity, which then is allowing you to shape your children's identity. You were very intentional about providing playing situations. Like, if this happens, then this, not being reactive. Like, oh my gosh, you should have, or why didn't you?
Right.
They didn't do it because they didn't know what to do, right? They did the best that they could with the information that they had. But by you being very clear and setting it up that way, allowed them to recognize it and decide in that space who they want to be.
Right.
Do they want to be this person that mom has helped or dad has helped to shape, or do they want to be who their friends are helping to, influence? But then you said something very key, which is about, trust. And that was built on, well, I did say come to me, right?
Right.
And I did say come to me with everything, right? So we can't pick and choose what they can come to us with, because then what does that say about who I am as a parent?
Right.
Am I really truthful?
Right.
Am I really honest?
Right.
And you were being honest, but like, I just need a minute.
Yes. Because at the same time, I can only control myself. when they leave from me and they're outside, I can't control what they're, as you said earlier, I can't control what they're exposed to a certain extent. Like there are people that, oh, I'm gonna move and live in this neighborhood and I'm gonna, send my children to this school. They still are exposed. So I have to be within my right mind to say, okay, there are things they're being exposed to that I don't know nothing about. So even if they come to me and say, oh, this is what's going on, sometimes I'm learning too. So, yeah, there's value in voice, and there's value in voice, and there's freedom in voice. There's freedom in communication, and yeah, I'm free. Like I'm just, I'm not interested in.
So, so we're talking about you and your children, and you learning things. Along with them as they're bringing it to you. Did that happen with you and your parents? Like you had to bring something to your parents that they probably were like, oh no, you didn't. And as they were learning with you, because there's nothing new under the sun, right?
Right.
But they say what goes around comes around, right? Seen it before, just in a different body, different time. So did anything like that happen? Because I'm sure as much as you were learning this information and you were passing it on to your daughters, it had to be passed down to you. So,
did my parents learn anything with me? One thing, they learned that, I just know that literally it was no hi, afternoon, how's your day, nothing. She just picked up the phone. I said, hi, Mom. And then she was just like, you're pregnant? And I was just like, oh. I said, yeah. She said, all right, well, make sure you tell your father. And I was just like, oh, you can't tell him? She said, I'm not the one that's pregnant. So I was just like, all right. I was so disappointed because I knew that that was a disappointment for her. And for her to say, you have to tell your father, woo child, because I was a daddy's girl.